Welcome back, Saints. I'm Jake Ferguson.
And I'm Livy Rosengren, and this is SFHS Today. In world news, the EU has warned the COVID vaccine producers they must deliver the agreed supplies amid fears reduction could seriously hamper its inoculation drive. AstraZeneca and Pfizer-BioNTech have both said production problems mean they cannot supply the expected numbers. The EU warned it could restrict exports of vaccine made in the bloc, with Germany's health minister demanding fair distribution, according to the BBC News.
In national news, President Joe Biden expects 1.5 million Americans to be vaccinated every day within Biden's first 100 days of his newly elected presidency. I think with the grace of God, we'll be able to get that 1.5 million a day, said Biden. I hope we'll be able to increase as we go along, so we'll get into that 1.5 million. That's my hope.
In local news, Minnesota is eliminating the first-come, first-served system for the COVID-19 vaccine appointments for people 65 and older. Instead, they will have a pre-registration list and then will select random people from the list to receive an appointment starting Tuesday.
In school news, there was a school board meeting on Monday, January 25th, where the main topic discussed is how we return back to school, whether it be hybrid learning, distance learning, or full-time in school. Towards the end of the meeting, the school board decided to continue their plans with the middle school and the high school opening full beginning the 16th of February, despite the regional COVID-19 committee recommendations to hold off on fully reopening.
I was one of the few people who spoke on Monday, along with my mother, Jennifer Rosengren, and I shared some of my struggles with distance learning.
While some students will choose to return in person, others will opt to remain in distance. The high school faculty met Wednesday to discuss details. Meanwhile, reporter Mackenzie Wyman got some information on how the middle school will be returning back to school as well.
How are you helping teachers get ready for in-person learning?
One of the things we're doing to help teachers get ready is to make sure that they have the technology that they need in their classroom. And that includes having 2 screens so that they can watch kids on their Google Meet and still be able to have material presented.
What will a school day look like at the middle school?
Well, you've all been middle schoolers, so you know what school's like at the middle school. You'll be going from class to class and seeing your teachers. The big difference will be that some of our kids will be here at the school and other kids will be doing that from home, distance learning. So when you go to your class, you could have kids with you and kids on the computer at the same time.
What are you looking forward to with students coming back to the building?
Oh, we're all super excited to have kids in the building. I think the most fun will be able to see their faces, even if it's with masks on. And we're going to do our absolute best to make sure that we're being as safe and responsible as possible with social distancing, mask wearing, and following the guidelines.
While some students are preparing to go back to school, others have been able to attend in-person classes for specific classes. On a once-a-week waiver, here are reporters Adam Bozen and Will Clinton-Smith on more information about how our technical classes have been going since returning in January.
How did you get permission to come back into the school?
What we did was the governor ordered, during the governor's order, he allowed CTE, which are career and tech ed classes, to come back to school. So we put a proposal together, Mr. Trost and I, and went through the chain of command from Mr. Austin, and then it went up through to the school board, and they approved it, and we were able to do that.
So with Saints Manufacturing being a student-run business, COVID-19 has slowed our production significantly. Our biggest customer this year and last year, the past couple years actually, has been MnDOT. And when COVID first hit and we knew we were going to distance learning last year, my contact at MnDOT called me the next morning before I could even call him, and the first words out of his mouth were not hello, it was don't worry about it. And so him and I we've been in basically constant communication, continuously, like daily it seems, working through the problems, and he gives me his prioritized list of the products that he needs that we've already had purchase orders for, and so we move those to the top of the list. And there again, being the student-run business, it's very real in the sense students are having to prioritize and understand that there's some work that has to get done before others.
How do you feel given the 1 day a week situation? How's that working out so far?
I like the 1 day a week. I think heard pretty positive comments. Just getting in here, it is a long class period. It's all morning, but then once you're done for the week.
Do you feel like it's enough time?
I think actually, based on I've been here 20 years, I don't believe we've ever gotten this much done this quickly in each class.
Moving forward, we're still getting orders from MnDOT, and we're still working through those. So it's basically business as usual, and we're still up and running. Being in person has helped significantly to get some of these parts done, as we're still working on parts from last year. Those have obviously moved to the top of the list, and we're trying to get those done.
While spending time at home during distance learning, Philip Osterman has taken his hobby of crochet and knitting to extreme levels. This week, reporter Sophie DeRoy got 5 minutes of fame with Philip.
Student celebrities everywhere, this is why you should care about 5 minutes of fame.
When did you start crocheting?
When I was in 5th grade.
Oh, wow. How did you learn to crochet?
My aunt, she started to crochet in my grandma's house. And I looked at it and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And I was like, someday I can do big things like that. And look at where I am now.
Have you crocheted a lot over quarantine?
I have crocheted a lot of things over quarantine. I have crocheted doilies, some hats, some gloves, some scarves.
What's some advice you could give to people that are trying to learn?
Start with the simple stitches as best as you can. Now it's my favorite part. It's crochet. It's harder than it looks. It's like the beginning of what I showed you on the knitting needle. You yarn around twice. There's a gap here sometimes. A gap here sometimes because it's beginning. You put your hook between here. I normally put it in here while I teach. And you pull it through. And there you go. If you want to email me, if you want a free lesson, it's completely free and you don't have to pay or nothing. That's the best part about this. Also, it's on a Zoom, so I have 2 things monitoring what I'm doing. One is facing me, the other one is facing the work. I have a school session during the school year. I have a summer session over the summer. Doesn't matter what gender you are you. Keep living life the best as you can.
With high school activities being very different this year, reporter Brody Wyman went to find out how show choir is dealing with COVID-19 restrictions this season.
What protocols do you have to follow during practice and shows?
Sure. So this year has been really unique, unlike any other. We've been following a lot of different protocols to try to keep everybody safe. I think the biggest one that has affected rehearsals is we rehearsed outside for the first 2.5 months of normal practice. We were outside in the parking lot, socially distanced and more, with masks, dancing outside in the parking lot. So that was the biggest difference. We rehearse in pods, so we don't have more than 25 people intermixing at the same time. We keep those separate, and we always have masks on, of course.
How are shows being performed?
Sure. So we're not exactly sure of the answer to that question yet about when or how we're going to perform our shows. We're really hoping that we'll be able to have a home show at the end of the year here for everybody, whether that's in the auditorium, somewhat normal like it's been in the past, or in a gymnasium or outside. But we think it'll probably be masked. We think it'll be different than normal, but we're shooting to make something happen, and we just might need to get a little creative to figure out what that is. Yeah, so despite all the challenges this year, it's actually been a really good year. When we've been able to be in person with each other, it's been really nice.
Now on to sports.
In national sports this week, January 26th marked the one-year anniversary since Kobe Bryant was killed in a helicopter crash. The LA Lakers plan on a tribute to the game on the 27th, facing against the Philadelphia 76ers by wearing their Black Mamba jerseys and wearing a pair of Kobe sneakers, along with the number 24 sleeve.
In state sports, the very attractive Minnesota Wild team kicked off their season on January 14th and have won all 6 games they've played so far. They are also working with their new captain, Jared Spurgeon, and one of the new players, Kirill Kaprizov, has been doing really well for the team and has been an amazing contribution.
In school sports, our girls basketball team has suffered some losses as their season has gotten underway, including a 36-58 loss against rivals Cambridge on the 22nd. They have a home game Friday against Chicago Lakes. Boys basketball team has had a string of wins, including a 68-54 win against the Blue Jackets on the 22nd. The boys hockey team fought it out and beat Monticello with a total score of 2-0, and Cody Strait will have more on an outdoor game against Cambridge next week. Their next game is against Chicago Lakes at 1 p.m. on January 30th.
To finish off this week's SFHS Today, we have our Athlete of the Week, girls hockey player Jenna Kurkowski. Here is reporter Haley Turner to tell us more about her and her accomplishments.
How's the new season going this year?
The new season's going great. We are going in tomorrow's game with a 2-0 record, and we're really starting to jive with one another.
And what's your plans for college?
Plan to go to St. Mary's University of Minnesota and play on their women's hockey team, and I'll major in biology and hopefully become a dentist one day.
What's your favorite memorable moment?
Probably just making all the memories with the girls and the bus rides and making close bonds that I'll have forever. You know?
And any future advice for future hockey players?
Probably just take nothing for granted because the end comes faster than anything.
That's all for this week. Stay safe, Saints.